Good morning, Athens Middle School. Welcome to your second installment of Hands-On Science. Now, today we're going to finish talking a little bit about homeostasis and go back and clear a few things up from our last video. If you have not watched that last video, you need to go back and watch the video because it introduces homeostasis. Now, in the video today, we're going to talk about our expectations for the second part of your activity, and we're going to finish our discussion on homeostasis. To talk about homeostasis first, the other day we were talking about homeostasis and we're talking about a large organism such as human beings and relating it back to us. It's very difficult to understand something that we can't see. And talking about cells, which are very simple organisms, homeostasis is a little bit different. The biggest key in homeostasis for a single cell organism is the cellular membrane. The cellular membrane in a cell controls the flow of material moving in and out. This is very important for homeostasis. This is the one thing that allows the cell to control its environment on the inside, different from the environment on the outside. It does this by controlling the amount of water and the amount of sodium that are inside of the cell. It also does this by regulating its own temperature. If it brings in new material or pushes out old material, it can change the balance on the inside of the cell different from the balance on the outside of the cell. Cellular membranes have the ability to use active transport and passive transport, which we will talk about on a later video. In homeostasis, cells, as simple as they are, control their environments through this cellular membrane. Now, we also talk about a lot of times ectotherms and endotherms when I introduce homeostasis. An ectotherm is an organism that gets its temperature, its body temperature, from the outside. An endotherm is an organism that gets its body temperature from within. Now, you being a human, which a lot of people say are warm-blooded, you are an endotherm. You self-regulate your temperature. For homeostasis purposes, 98 degrees is roughly where your body likes to stay, which would mean that if it was 98 degrees outside and you were doing nothing, you would be happy. Now, how often is your body actually doing nothing? It doesn't. Your body's constantly using energy, and when we use energy, we give off heat all the time. And since it's doing this, your body is constantly creating heat. So you don't really like 98 degrees. Now, if your body were to work in an optimal level, warmer days make your body easier to work, or your body has to work less because it doesn't have to produce as much energy, heat energy, to keep you warm. It also doesn't have to use energy like producing sweat to keep you cool if you get too hot. This is why you're an endotherm. You can actually regulate your own body temperature. Have you ever noticed when it warms up and you see animals outside like lizards and turtles and maybe even snakes? When it warms up, these animals are very active. Have you ever seen it when it warms up in Alabama and then all of a sudden it gets cold like it has this week? If you've ever noticed that and you've seen a reptile outside during that time, you might notice that they are very slow when it cools down. The reason is their bodies have cooled down and they actually don't make their own body heat. So it slows every part of their body processes down. This is very evident in snakes. Snakes are ectotherms. And on very hot days, you will notice that snakes are extremely active. On very cold days, they are not active at all. They do this because their body literally gets its energy from the outside temperature, giving them their name, ectotherms. This is a form of homeostasis. They, ectotherms, do not control their homeostasis. Endotherms do. All organisms have developed some process for controlling their homeostasis, which brings me to my activity. Now, yesterday I used the term differential. Differential literally means the difference in temperature from one item to the next, or the difference in anything, money, distance, any measurement you can use is a differential. For example, if it were 50 degrees outside yesterday and it's 70 degrees inside your house, that's a temperature differential of 20 degrees. Now, we may not be able to match our differential from your first day's activity to your second day's activity. But what we want to do is we want to look at where we were. Were you heating your house on day one? If you were, I want you to raise the temperature 1 degree and heat it 1 more degree. If you were cooling your house, I want you to cool your house 1 degree cooler than in your first activity. Now, it's pretty chilly this morning, so I'm assuming that most of you are heating your house. Look for the same time of day, look for your ambient temperature outside, and see if it's close. If it is, like I said, increase your temperature by 1 degree. Run it for 30 minutes. I want you to notice how your house has to work a little bit harder to warm up in the first 30 minutes. This is a great example of homeostasis. When you finish this and you've collected all your data, I would like you to write a 6 to 8 sentence paragraph explaining to me what your data has told you about homeostasis and how when temperatures change, organisms have to work harder or less hard to stay regulated. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this activity. I hope this activity relates well in understanding how organisms use energy to control their own personal environments. As I said yesterday, have fun, do your work, and do a little science. Have a great day.